So let's go into a breakdown of how we do this, because every part of the script and absolutely matters. It's important that you understand the psychology. You do not want to cut corners on how the scripting works. There's a particular reason why we do it the way we do. And what I'm going to go through is kind of how to set it up correctly, how to pose the questions correctly, and get kind of nuanced with how we do it. Because again, every little word matters. And then what to do when you hear these kind of basic objections like, well, it depends on how much I can get, because you'll hear that sometimes as well. So here's how the script sounds. So my final question for you is about price. Mrs. Jones, 9 out of 10 people that I see are on a fixed income. And basically what that means is that they live month to month. There's no money tree out back. You know what I mean? And the last thing you want to do when you're on a fixed income is buy too much or spend too much money on something you can't afford, right? I mean, that doesn't make any sense to buy a policy like in this case that you may buy it today, but in 6 months from now, you can't afford it anymore. It's not a good use of your money. Truth be told, the best policy to get, Mrs. Jones, is the one that's easily affordable. And right, yeah. And the one that's easily affordable is the one that can easily fit your budget. And that's the one that's going to be there till the end, because why would you get any other kind of plan that, like I said, you may have to lose in the next 6-12 months because, it's summer and the air conditioning bills to the roof. It doesn't make any sense. So my question to you is this. If I can qualify for a program today, can you afford somewhere between $150 and $200 a month? Okay. So let's break that down and describe kind of what I did. So that first initial, and I break this into 2 steps. The first part of that, like the first 80% of that, before I ask if I can qualify for the program, all that stuff that I said is essentially trying to gain maximal amount of rapport and empathy, or expressing our empathy and understanding to the client that we know our clients are on a fixed income, that we know that they don't make a lot of money, and that we respect the fact that they live month to month, check to check. Okay. Even if they don't, the fact that you say that kind of gives a sigh of relief to the prospect that you're facing this reality head on. You're not trying to pretend it doesn't exist, and that you respect the fact that they're on a fixed income and you're not there to take all their money, right? Because that is an underlying fear every single person has, is I don't want to get ripped off. I don't want to buy something I can't afford or certainly have to give up. So the fact that you verbalize all this stuff, the fact that you go through this deliberately and you don't just rush over it, I think really builds a unique connection with your prospect that frankly none of the other agents out there are going to do. And it gets the prospect mentally right where we need them. They're now on our side because we're on their side. We're not out to take all their money. We're out to get them something they can easily afford. And we've made it abundantly clear that that's what we're trying to do. And as a side note, this isn't some just kind of verbal jujitsu here that I just say but don't mean. I actually mean it. I don't want my client to lapse. I don't care if I have to spend or sell them a $10 a month plan. As long as it's easily affordable, that's what I want them to buy. Anything other than that is a disservice to your client. And I can tell you this, guys, ladies and gentlemen, if you got to chase down deals, resell people on them, you over push them into a plan, and you cause lapses and chargebacks because you weren't sensitive to this reality, it's the worst thing you can do in this business. Being in what we call chargeback hell, where you owe back money on closed deals that you couldn't keep on the books, is not fun, and it ruins this business. So the cool thing about what we're doing here is we're being sensitive to that while setting us up to get the most that we can that the client can tolerate. Okay. So after we've said that, the client's on our side, they feel comfortable with us, they sense a sigh of relief. Now we go for the big bucks. And the qualifying scripting is as follows. If I can qualify you for a program today, Mrs. Jones, can you afford somewhere between $150 and $200 a month? You have to be comfortable with asking for the money. And what I'm going to try to do is explain to you why you should be comfortable asking high, because the simple act of asking for the big dollars is a huge differentiator in what your average case size is going to be and what your average profitability per sale is going to be. I didn't do this. I did everything the same script-wise, everything the same I talked about, but I went low on the premium. My average case size, $550 a month, or $550 a year. We have agents right now who are doing this. I just talked to one yesterday, and I think he's doing this. And I think if I recall correctly, it was like 900 to 1,000, somewhere in the, it was up there. Maybe it was 800 to 900, but it was way more than what mine was. And I think in part, it's because of how we ask the question. Okay. Again, words matter, and how your kind of strategy you implement matters for sure. So, kind of building on this, why is this okay? It's a couple of things I'm going to try to explain or teach you why you should be completely confident and comfortable asking for this. First of all, you don't know what your prospect situation is. I can't tell you how many homes I've been in where I thought it was like a rat infested nightmare that my clients could afford way more than I originally thought. You have to shut your brain down in this business. You have to not let your predisposed notions of what you think the client can or can't do get in the way of accomplishing what you're set out to do, which is help maximally your client. You don't want to prejudge. Okay. I always like to share the story. Zig Ziglar, he's a passed away old OG of sales training. He used to sell pots and pans. He went into a dilapidated country house, dirt floors, no internal piping, plumbing, et cetera. And they sat down. He sat down and immediately was like, oh God, I'm not going to sell anything in this house. It's a dump. But he went through his pitch just to be nice. And they love the pans. They love the pots. And it was an extended family, multiple generations. And the grandma was really excited about having them. And at the close, he got coy and started putting his pans away, assuming they couldn't or wouldn't afford it or couldn't afford it. And the son jumped up and said, as he's packing away, says, if Mama wants the pans and pots, Mama's going to get the pans and pots. We can wait off on the plumbing another year. That was kind of what they're saying. We can put the plumbing off for some pots and pans. And he ended up learning a really important lesson. You and I might think in that context, maybe they should have a toilet instead of some pots and pans, I mean, that would be normal. But again, that's really at the end of the day what we think. It's not what they think. And every person is an autonomous individual that can make their own mind up of what they want or they don't want, regardless of what we think, if it's prudent or not. So likewise, we just don't know what the situations are that we're in. And I think the sooner you decide not to judge anymore when it comes to deciding if you're going to do the script like you should or shouldn't, the faster you're going to start being more successful in this business. And take it from me, I know I judged a lot in this business. I'm certainly not immune from that. And I want to convey a sense of hopefully wisdom here. Just do the script. Don't think too much about what you think the client can or can't afford. You will be surprised at times. Even if they say no, the deal is not over. They're not going to throw you out of your house or their house. They're not going to hang the phone up on you. If you have built rapport, you've made a connection, and you've done a good job pre-qualifying on the need, want section to really get into why they sent the information and why they're even talking to you. Okay. You've got to do good on that to have that baseline foundation of rapport and belief in your product. If you're planning on getting away, quote unquote, with asking for an amount of money that may be way out of their budget and may offend them so much that they just shut down. It doesn't really happen. I guess that's the main point I want to assure you. If you just follow what we teach you, rest assured, we have multiple agents on this call who have done this strategy time and again. And if you're the least bit worried about asking them, it just doesn't happen to the extent that you think it does. Okay. Here's what happens. Let me explain to you what happens and how you deal with the pushback that you will inevitably get by asking for the big money. Let me take a sip of coffee. So first of all, the client, when you ask the question, if I can qualify for a program today, can you afford somewhere between 150 to 200 a month? They clutch their chest. They fall out of their seat. They say no, right? In some emphatic way. What do you say about that? Well, your answer is simple. Your answer is relaxed, non-threatening. You never push them. You got to afford 150, 200 or else. No, we don't want any of that. Any resistance we get with the budget, we always give up ground and drop the price down. So when I hear no, my response is, that's okay, Mrs. Prospect. If I can qualify for a different program, and let's say it's between $100 and $125 a month, would that fit your budget today? No. Hey, that's okay, Mrs. Prospect. The good news is I work with different companies. What if I could find a different program, and instead of 100 to 125, it was 25 a month, it was between $75 and $100 a month. Would that fit your budget today? So we do this step by step by step, all the way down. I have no shame. I'll do $10 a month, $15 a month. I don't care. It's insurance. It helps people. It solves a problem. And if that's all they can afford, then why not do it, right? I'm on the phone or in person with them, close them, right? So I'll go all the way down in the sequence of how I step down. Let me explain that. It's 150 to 200. Then it's 100 to 125. Then it's 75 to 100. Then it's 50 to 75. Then it's 30 to 50. Then it's like 15 to 30. And then at that point, it's like, so can you afford at least $10 a month? That's like the last hurrah. The client says, I can't even afford $10 a month. Do you continue to do the presentation or are you done? You leave. There ain't no sticking around after I hear they can't afford anything a month. Okay, here's why I do this, Jocelyn, for everybody else. If you're dealing with somebody at the close, remember, we're not at the close. We're halfway through the presentation. We're just getting their budget. And we are getting their budget in a sense where they don't know what the product's about. They just know that they have a need and a desire to have peace of mind. So they're in somewhat of a quasi-emotional state and a quasi-understanding of they need some kind of coverage. We built some value, but not complete value. We haven't explained the difference between term and whole life insurance. And what I have discovered is if at this point, I've effectively connected with them, I've effectively pre-qualified with them, and I feel pretty good. If I go through the rigmarole of the pricing and the budget, and they can't even afford $10 a month, I actually believe them. And I believe, and well, not believe, but I know, following our pre-qualifying strategy, remember the 5 things: need, want, health, bank, and budget. Not having one of those 5 means the client is not qualified. If this client does not or cannot afford $10 a month, why am I even being there at this point? Why? Why would I pitch any further? Why would I beg somebody to buy from me? And I have begged. And what I've discovered is even if I continue on and say, well, you know, it's great, this whole life insurance and this and that, and it's better in term, they're like, oh, that's great. I'm still broke. You know, it's not going to work. So, you know, there's a sense that, well, if we just tell them about how great this thing is, that maybe they'll turn. I've never experienced that. You're welcome to do it. What I found out as well is it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating and emotionally crushing to beg somebody to buy something, because this is not rocket surgery here. This is pretty simple stuff we're selling. Peace of mind to take care of people you love. And if people refuse to buy that because they say they're cheap, they can't afford it, or they don't believe in it, like, I'm not going to beg. I'm not going to beg. Why would you do that? Why would you lower yourself to that? So I believe you should just pack up and go. If they're going to object to $10 a month, anybody can afford $10 a month. And if they don't want to, and I've done my job earlier and I'm pre-qualified, that's on them, not me. One of the things you guys have to manage long-term is this up here. This up here, and managing this is how you succeed ultimately. I failed out of the business because I couldn't manage this in my first year. And so part of my strategy with the sales process is I only spend time with people who are worth my time, that they meet the criteria of buying.